Hi, everyone. My name is Natalie Ledwell, and this is the Inspiration Show. Today on the show, I have a good friend of mine beaming in from Australia, and we're going to be talking about meditation. Specifically, what is meditation? Why should we do it? And are we doing it correctly? So my friend is going to help us with that. But before I introduce my special guest, I just want to remind you that once the show is over, don't forget to click the link that's below the video so that you can download the free ebook version of my best-selling book, Never in Your Wildest Dreams. So please help me introduce my special guest, Brett Anderson. Hi, Brett. How are you?
Hey, Nat. Thanks for having me.
Of course, mate. Of course. We're going to be talking a little bit of strain here, everyone, so I hope you're prepared for it.
No worries.
No worries, mate.
No worries.
Yeah, so like I was saying earlier, we're going to be talking about meditation today. And there's so many different modalities out there, and sometimes it can be really quite confusing. So I know that you're going to help set us straight on all of that. But before we get into our juicy conversation, why don't we start with your background, and how you got into doing this kind of stuff?
Yeah, well, my background, I started out in sports and martial arts and trying to understand how the flow state, before it was called the flow state, would come up. It would sort of just happen randomly to me. And when I was in it, everything turned to gold. It was this sort of magical state where I would surprise myself at what I could do. And then I'd spend a good, weeks or months trying desperately to get back into it again. And so it really fascinated me what was actually going on, because I realized that I couldn't actually actively turn it on, with any force or any effort. So I started learning about, spiritual practices and the power of the mind, and ultimately led me into meditation and all sorts of obscure information. So that's where I started out. And because that state was, kind of addictive, it was something I wanted to keep doing. It led me on this, down all these rabbit holes, and here I am today on the Inspiration Show with you talking about it.
Well, and that's the thing, when we talk about flow, I think that's something that we all want to, be able to connect with. I know I was talking to a girlfriend of mine the other day, and she was like, I need to write this book, and I've got to get this book written. And she goes, but I don't know how to do it. And I said, from what I hear you saying is that you want to figure out how to catch that flow. Mm. And I'm like, well, for me, I'll sit down and write for an hour every day. And that's the time I'm writing. Sometimes stuff happens, sometimes it doesn't, but it's kind of, trying to get that flow to come through. But that kind of applies to all of our, every part of life. So how do you connect with flow? What have you figured out?
Well, it's kind of like being a surfer. You just got to be out there often enough, long enough, and, catch enough waves and sort of get used to how everything feels and works out there and tune into it. I don't know if there's really any secret, I think it's something that you just got to put the time and energy into. And when we talk about effort, putting in the effort is getting yourself in alignment with that flow. Because, everyone who's been in it, when you're in it, it's there. It turns on. You don't need to think about it. You're just doing it. It's when it turns itself off, we're scurrying around like chickens with their heads cut off trying to get back into it. Mm. So, that's the way I look at it.
Right. And so you're saying you talked about, becoming a frequency, like a match to that. And do you achieve that through meditation?
Yeah, meditation's obviously a great tool. And I think, it should be something that you use as a tool, not as a vehicle so much to access it. I think a lot of people, when they get into this and they begin meditating, they use it as the means to the end. But for me, it's more like a space to train the body and the mind into those frequencies, and a place to tinker and refine. And once you've got that frequency, you don't need to meditate so much. You just need to start living as that frequency, and then all this amazing stuff starts to happen around you.
Yeah. Because that's the thing with meditation. We can listen to guided meditations, and that kind of leads our mind in a certain way. But how do you know if you're meditating correctly?
Yeah.
Is there a correct way?
Am I doing it right?
Right?
Come on, inner peace. What's happening here? I don't think, everyone's like, give me the right tool. What's the right way to do it? Am I doing it right? Am I doing it often enough, long enough? Are you doing your meditations every day? I think whatever tool, whatever modality, whatever voice, whatever sort of soundtrack, it doesn't even need to be a guided meditation. You can just listen to your favorite piece of music. Sometimes you can do it without music. You can do it sitting down, lying down, standing up, eyes open, eyes closed. Some of the best meditative experiences I've had have been really in a really heightened state, like in a very intense, active motion. So I think whatever's going to get you to do it and going to point you towards that flow state, that's what you should be doing. It shouldn't really matter, whose meditations or what style of meditation. As long as it's going to get you up and out of bed and doing it, then I think that's the one you should be using.
Yeah, for sure. So what are your tricks? Like, what are things that you do to get yourself into that space?
Yeah, it's a good question. So there's a few tools that I think, we can just give away straight away. And those are focus. Your ability to focus, or your focus fitness, is really important when it comes to meditation and accessing these states. Relaxation, really learning how to relax, because it is a skill. It's not something you just sit there and do nothing. It's something you have to focus on relaxing. Especially when you get into these practices and you get deeper into meditation, lots of stuff is going to start to come up for you, and it's going to really disturb your energy, and you're going to have to reorganize yourself. So being able to relax through those processes and not freak out, especially when you get into those more advanced, what we'd call a supernatural state, a lot of these things are going to start to challenge your belief systems and your perceptions of the world. So being able to relax through all that and go through that gauntlet and get to the other side where, everything starts to settle down, is a really valuable skill. And just bringing that new energy and balancing it into your life and allowing things to flux and change. Allowing is another thing. I think they're really key, important tools that everyone should really invest time practicing while you're practicing your meditation and your other spiritual practices.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing, right? Like you look at, meditation, and you think, okay, I'm going to sit down and have a little relax, a little sleepy poo, which is not really what we should be doing, right? It's really being able to be in a place where we can quiet the mind, which can obviously takes time and it takes practice, and sort of get into that space where we can connect to the unified field, or we can connect to the collective consciousness, and tap into that. So what are some of the, challenges that you see a lot of people have when it comes to, starting a meditation practice?
Yeah, I think the main thing that keeps coming up for most people is this unconscious belief of not good enough. I'm not doing it good enough. I'm not doing it often enough. I'm not doing it the right way. And that very thing gets in the way, it's like if you were someone who wanted to get fit and go to the gym, if you kept second guessing yourself every time you picked up a weight or did an exercise, you probably wouldn't even bother turning up after a while. So I think you just need to keep turning up and keep practicing. And, if you're doing it long enough, it will reveal its secrets to you. Stickability is another practice, another tool, another skill that's really important. If you can just sort of stick with something long enough, eventually the brain, because the brain loves to solve problems, the brain and the body will eventually tune in, and things will just click into place, and then all of a sudden you've got it and it becomes a new habit, and you don't really have to think about doing it. And I think that's where meditation goes from being this chore, this torture process if I have to sit still and do nothing for an hour, just breathe. I got stuff to do, you don't know what my life's like. I'm so busy and important. It's like when you can move past all that, you start to really enjoy that alone time, that time where you're practicing that meditation. And so I think that's where we want to get to, because once you get into that state, if you can do that doing nothing, seemingly doing nothing, sitting down without any stimulation, perhaps with your eyes covered even, then once you've got that emotion, that frequency locked into your body and your mind, it's really easy to take that, to the supermarket and do your shopping with, or while you're driving your car and going to work, or, picking up the kids, or doing whatever you do, or running your business. And that's what I think is the real value of meditation, is you get to practice these states and then transfer them into your everyday living life. And it's something you want to take into your life, not escape your life from to do. Right. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it's not a timeout. It's an integration and embodiment practice more.
Yes. Than else. Yeah, absolutely. Embodiment is the word. You want to embody that and then take it into your life and start to, beam that out everywhere you go. That's the key, because then you start interacting with people and they pick up on it. And if you're, that's old saying, if you're in love, everyone's in love. And so, the more people that are doing it, the better, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I know that you work with groups of people. Mm-hmm. What do you do in the groups?
Yeah, it's a good question. I get asked, like, what is it that you do? And it's sort of like, I guess for me, coming from a martial arts background, we did a lot of training in patterns and systems and techniques and all that sort of stuff. And there's a lot of focus on getting those things down in the beginning. But after you click over into a new level, I suppose, everything turns inside out, and you sort of know what your tools and your techniques are and your limitations. And you start putting yourself into scenarios where you're free flowing and you're allowing all that you know to flow through you. And so when we get into these groups, whether I work with groups or individuals at whatever levels, we pick a topic, we set a frame of what we're going to work within. And I sort of try and keep everything on track. But when we get in there, we're not really sure where it's going to go. And so we just get into, the whole aim is to get into this flow state through particular topics and to create all these inlets and outlets in and out of that state. So when you go into your daily life, you've got more options about getting in there.
Right.
Because what I've found is that a lot of people are really good at getting into that state in one particular area, like they've mastered it in that area. And a lot of people I'm working with are masters in particular fields, but they're really wanting to transfer that mastery out into other areas now. And so that's one of the things we practice in these sessions.
Right. And so who would benefit from joining the sessions with you?
Well, anyone, of course, but generally I think if you're an absolute beginner and you're not, you're being overwhelmed and inundated with so many options that you're not sure where to begin, what I would do is I will give you a good corridor with which to start, which is going to branch you off into lots of different areas where you can decide for yourself where you want to go. Or if you're really at a more advanced level and, you've done everything, you've been everywhere, and now you're like, what's next? This is a good place for people like us to gather and to tinker and refine and to explore, that, and become an adventurer into that unknown space of what's to come beyond. So that's basically the spectrum.
Yeah. So what you're really doing is helping to guide people to be able to meditate in a way that can be easily integrated into their life, and to see like maybe the blind spots they have and how to use an embodiment technique like this to be able to raise every single area of their life.
Yeah, well, I guess so, but it's more about, we create a space for those sorts of things to happen. Mm-hmm. So, when you get a bunch of masters in the room together, it's like a really cool jam session. You get all sorts of amazing things start to happen that no one really expects. You create that space and that frequency for that higher mind to come through, and it's really exciting to become part of that.
So cool. Awesome. Well, Brett, thanks for joining me today and having a little chat. So if people want to connect with you, where can they do that?
So I have a website. It's called energeticarts.io. I also have a Facebook page. You can reach us at Energetic Arts on Facebook page. If you get there, join the group. And from there, from the website, we've got a tab there for webinars. Just go into the webinars, go down the page, click on the link, register. It'll take you through the process, and you'll get your links, and we'll see you in the room.
Cool. Sounds awesome, darling. Well, thanks again, Brett. It's always awesome chatting to you.
Yeah, thanks, Nat. It's good to see you again.
Yeah, awesome. So, guys, I encourage you, please share that video. Share this video. Get the word out there by clicking the Facebook and the Twitter share buttons. And either click the link below this video or the banner to the side to go directly through to Brett's website so you can find out more. And after all that is over, don't forget to click the link below that so that you can download the free ebook version of my best-selling book, Never in Your Wildest Dreams. So until next time, remember to live large, choose courageously, and love without limits. We'll see you soon.